Hundreds is sort of an arcade slash puzzle slash geometry game, I guess, and it's designed for large format touchscreens. So you're supposed to use lots of fingers, and it's supposed to be on a big, pretty screen. And it turns out it actually is totally playable on iPhone, but we didn't know that till later, and it was a nightmare in some ways. So the people that made Hundreds were from all over the place. One of us is in Vancouver, one of us is in Chicago, one of us lives out in Dripping Springs, and one of us lives in South Austin. I'm the only one who could make it today, but I brought some really short videos from the team so they can introduce themselves.
The Game City, I'm Greg. I'm the visual designer and creator of Hundreds. Air quotes because I made it in Flash a few years ago, just like a tiny little prototype. It was my first ever coding project that actually was released. And since then, Adam, Eric, Scott, and I have expanded on the concept and actually made it a real game that's playable and really fun, I think. So I'm excited to see what you guys think. Hopefully somebody's taping this, or Adam is taking rigorous notes. So thanks for coming by, and enjoy.
So if you don't recognize his name for some reason, he co-created a game called Basketball, which has been in Fistful of Indies before. He co-created a game called Solipskier, which is completely brilliant. Those are both on iOS. And he also designed the indie game, the movie, poster, and logo. He's completely amazing.
Hello Game City, I'm Eric. I've been doing a lot of the programming for Hundreds. It's been a lot of fun working with Greg, Adam, and Scott on this project. I knew from the moment I saw Hundreds that it would be a lot of fun to play on a tablet, and I'm really glad that I've had the chance to work on it, the iOS port. Hundreds has been a labor of love. A lot of work has gone into this project. I hope that if you ever get a chance to play Hundreds, that you will notice all the polish and refinement and hard work and effort that we put into it. I hope you enjoyed the talk. Thanks for coming.
That's the quietest video he was able to take. He has 3 kids. Actually, 4 kids now. Eric, Scott, and I are all dads, so our whole team is actually 75% dads, which I think is pretty good.
Hi, my name is Scott Morgan, also known as Lawsel. I composed the music and some of the sound effects for Hundreds.
And Brandon Boyer kind of suggested, I think, originally that we work with Scott on this project because Greg was a big fan of his. He did some music for Osmos, and he's also, I'm actually not sure what the legal status of Radical is, a big game studio up in Vancouver called Radical, but he was like their lead audio guy for forever, which we had no idea until he was actually mostly done with the audio for this project. We're like, you're really good at this. It turns out he's an actual professional. I did a lot of prototyping and puzzle design on the game. I did a lot of game mechanic design, and I did a lot of work on getting the game to work on iPhones. And if you don't know me, I'm Adam Saltsman. I help run JUEGOS, and I made a game called Canabalt and a Flash library called Flixel. So here's going to be our super fast version of how we made the game. We started making the game about a year ago, a little over a year ago. It was based on Greg's Hundreds Flash game that he had made. You can go on Newgrounds and play it like tonight if you want to see like where this thing came from. But Greg wanted to program a game himself. He wanted to learn Flash, and this was his little prototype project that he used. It's sort of offensive to me that his first game looks so good. I don't appreciate that. And the project started with just kind of an email or two, and this is the first of those. Those are actual quoted emails from our archive. The big idea behind Hundreds, aside from Greg's wonderful prototype, is kind of a collection of these things. So this guy, Chris Hecker, wrote this kind of quasi-infamous rant a few years ago where he complained that a lot of games kind of will scratch the surface of an interesting idea, but they won't follow it all the way down. They won't explore all the interesting things that that game can do, maybe, or that game mechanic allows you to do. Braid is a really fantastic example of a game that scratches that itch all the way down into like the depths of like the mathematical infinite nature of space-time. Hundreds doesn't do that, but I felt like that Greg's prototype had kind of just scratched the surface, and there were lots of cool things that we could do if we followed it down a rabbit hole, as it were. Sword and Sorcery was a big inspiration too, and not visually, even though obviously the visuals and audio in that game are totally amazing, but Sword and Sorcery had this attitude that maybe if they made something that didn't look like Angry Birds, that would be the best way to have people notice them on the App Store, to make something that stood out. Pursuing this from the initial prototype stage had a lot to do with putting all those ideas together. And basically these are just a bunch of sort of behind-the-scenes things. This was way early. This was stuff that we were drawing and messing around with almost a year ago. We threw out a lot of this stuff. Here's some more of it. Some of this we kept. You'll recognize a couple of things from this bottom right. Precisely two of those 7 things actually survived over the course of a year. I did a lot of level design in my Moleskine notebook. I make these little thumbnails. They're a little bit bigger than a postage stamp, and I put in little sketches to try and figure out what would be what's an interesting puzzle or interesting thing to explore. These are actually the original thumbnails, the first ones I ever drew for Hundreds, and this is actually the first 5 or 6 levels of the game that are actually still in the game. Like if you go up and play on the iPad or watch the screen, you'll see levels 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 all are levels 1 through 5 in the current build of the game. And so that was just lucky as hell. And I did a lot of these, trying to find out what were the cool ways to explore this idea. They just kind of keep going. That was the first couple of months of working on the game. We were feeling really excited. Wow, we already have like 50 ideas for this game, and we've only been working on it for a month. That's great. This is way easier than we thought it would be. And the ideas started to get like a lot more complex and awful. This was the craziest thing. This is all was going to be one thing that was going to be in the game, and it was this factory thing that had like a timer, and it could like rotate, and you could trigger it, but it was the worst idea. So by March, we had planned for the game to come out. This was like 7 months ago, something like that. And it was really not out yet, partly because we had really crazy ideas like that last one that were really complicated and weren't actually fun. And they were so complicated that we couldn't prototype them to find out if they were fun. The game is called Hundreds, but we only had like 30 puzzles. If the game didn't have at least 100 puzzles, we felt like people would be a little disappointed. The puzzles were really complicated and rigid. Obviously, we were a little bit behind schedule. So we went back and played the original Flash game where this whole idea came from in the first place. And I was really struck by a couple of things. And these were things that Greg was interested in as well. And one was Hundreds, the Flash game, is extremely simple. It's almost like Asteroids if you took away the ship. Like there's just barely anything to it, and it's still really beautiful and interesting. And it's also a very random game. There are no prescribed puzzles or preset spatial arrangements of things. And so we kind of looked at a lot of the puzzles we've been designing, and we're like, these are really missing the point. This is not what made Hundreds beautiful. So we had 30 or 40 puzzles, and we got rid of like half of them. So that was great, only now our 100 level game has 20 puzzles and it's still not done. So what we did is we said, okay, great, hundreds, we like that it's simple and random, we have all these crazy ideas, let's go through and cherry pick from our craziest ideas and think about what's like that little core mechanic, what's the little interesting thing in the middle of each of these complex ideas, and let's like pluck that fruit and put that in the game instead. And so for me this was actually kind of interesting and helpful because it meant thinking more in depth about Chris Hecker's advice to finish your game or explore all the little niches and nooks and crannies in it, because what I thought we were exploring was a game about circles that bounce around, and what we should have been exploring is a game that's about randomness and simplicity. And so a lot of the puzzles that we started to design after changing our minds about this started to look like this instead of like those little complicated grid-based things where we just kind of, the puzzle design is almost a matter of picking interesting ingredients and putting them all in the same bowl and letting the player sort it out. And that ended up being the thing that we felt was the most interesting and beautiful way to design puzzles for hundreds. So a lot of the second half of hundreds is composed of puzzles that are more in that vein. We were sort of rediscovering this idea. This is probably quoted wrong, but it's the idea that randomness and skill are not two ends of the same gradient or spectrum, but skill is about how well you handle randomness. And a lot of games that I love are like this. Cosmic Encounters, this old board game, is very much about like how do you cope with the impossible to predict circumstances that you're faced with every turn. For Frank, I think this quote is really specifically about poker. We were sort of stumbling upon this idea freshly ourselves and going, yeah, that's good stuff, even though we already knew it. So we started trying out some levels that were a little less prescribed and a little more random. You can see more multi-directional arrows over there. And we started trying out some of our new ideas, things like saw blade circles and ice circles and these like weird infected circles that happen late in the game. And the thing about those new ideas is not only did we try to make sure they were simple and random, but we tried to pick ideas that would overlap and cross-cut. And so we would add one new idea, but it would affect all 8 ideas that were already in the game. And what this led to is when we were stuck at our impossible game that we could never release that only had 20 or 30 puzzles, it already had 8 different mechanics in it. And we only added about 3 more, and suddenly we had like 90 puzzles instead of 30. Just because all these things would cross-cut and overlap and create interesting problems that weren't actually programming problems, they were player problems. And that was really cool. So, and it also enabled us to create a whole new crazy game mode that would have been impossible without this emergence and cross-cutting behavior. And then we had a great problem, so we're like, awesome, we figured out how to solve the game, only screenshots of our game look like discs with numbers on them, and nobody's going to want to play that. After Basketball came out, which was kind of like a quasi-infamous financial disaster, the creators, Mike Boxlater and Greg Wohlwend, went on a road trip across the US, and after a few days on the road, I got an email from Greg. So that was our big plan, right? Was yes, we've got it figured out. It'll just be, we'll do, this didn't start out as cartoon physics animals, but F it, like, let's go for it. And then we changed our minds. That was like, we were worried again about just the game would just disappear. It would just be another kind of bouncy cartoon physics animals game instead of something unique that would stand out. So that's the Cliff Notes version of the Hundreds Design Talk. The game is going to come out really early next year. It's actually very close to done, but if we submitted it now, even if it was approved, it would come out in December when the App Store goes completely bananas. So we're just going to wait, polish it up a little bit more. It'll come out in early next year. That's about all I have to say. And I was thinking if we want to do a little Q&A that I could Skype Greg in so he could say hi to you guys. If Skype ever launches. Oh, I'm a half hour late, that's why. Oh, that's probably part of it too. That was a good catch. Oh no, I wasn't even on the internet, so it wasn't even going to allow me to even be online at all. Okay, I got some onlines. Got some things going on here. I'm still a half hour late though. This might not work. Yeah, I can't send him a message. I guess, let's just play video games, and then oh. All right, I'm gonna try this. Let's try this. It was actually a pretty dramatic scenario on this end, getting this set up, but I think we're good.
Cool.
Hey! Alright, let me see if I can turn my thing around so you can see everybody.
Wow. Hey guys.
Woo! Look at all these humans, man.
Great. Inside my kitchen.
Alright. So yeah, I guess if anybody has any... Oh, crap. You're still there, Greg. I just pulled out the video cable.
No, you're fine.
So yeah, I guess if anybody has any questions for Greg, the Cosmic Galaxy, come on. Man, I am not good at this. Let's take questions anyway, because at least Greg can hear us, and I'll try and get him to do videos on the thing.
Do we match, Adam? I think we match.
A little bit.
I've got like a red.
I'm not embarrassed.
We planned it.
Does anybody have any questions for Greg? Oh, we have one over here. Yeah.
Hey, what's up? Oh, hey.
How is basketball doing?
That's a popular question. Basketball is sort of on like hiatus. We're planning to do sort of like the iPhone version and really rethinking things, maybe like selling it, maybe not, maybe splitting it up into different games. So like we're kind of just, I don't know, regrouping. We're sort of actually, Mike and I are working on a new game, completely new game, to try and like, I guess, get back on the horse a little bit. So it's like a small little puzzle game, and that's hopefully going to be like cathartic for us. But otherwise, you know, it's like we put ads in there, and it's sort of puttering along and not making $0, so that's kind of good. But yeah, fun stuff. I don't know if there's anything more like specifically you wanted to know, but it's kind of the general thing I tell people these days.
Any other questions for Greg?
Did people like the game? Have you played it? Cool. Thanks, guys.
What was the inspiration for it?
Did you catch that? What was the...
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, like one night, it was when we were making Saltsman, and I was living with Mike, actually, which is a horrible idea. But I was in my room, and I was just thinking, you know, I really want to program a game by myself. And I was thinking about, like, just, like, the simplest thing I could think of that really got me excited, and it was, like, this circle growing, you know, kill mechanic. And that was just really weird and kind of happened all at once and staring at my ceiling. So, and then from that, I just really wanted to make it super simple and crisp because, I don't know, I just wanted to do it in like 2 weeks or something. So, and out of that, like hundreds and like the red inside hundreds, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I went with that. Like, whenever I kind of come up with a concept, like the art and everything like that, I kind of try and almost commit like so much to the core idea that sometimes it gets a little crazy in my head, but I really like, I don't know, I really like that part of it, so that's where the red came from, I guess.
Alright, we got another question back there.
Yeah, on the website it says it's about the stuff that takes up space in your mind. Do you see the game that way, or can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I do. Like, when I prototyped the game, I didn't know what the game would be like, so I had that idea, you know, and then when I started playing it, then things sort of, you know, came out of that, and I felt like it really rewarded the patience and people that really stuck with it. So, you know, like, and when you're patient, when you're kind of forcing yourself to be patient, or you're just like arriving at that, I don't know, I just get really chilled out, and I kind of forget about, you know, like what I need to do tomorrow or work and any kind of life stuff. So it just sort of, I guess, replaces the stuff in your mind with just like thinking about that Zen kind of feeling, I guess. So yeah, it's kind of, does that make any sense?
Sure. Yeah.
What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I like the sensation of like in a lot of games, like in Super Crate Box and some other games, I like this sensation of having lots of crap that's piling up, and you can really just barely handle it. But then when you do handle it and everything clears out, you have just like this momentary. I have a lot of moments in my life where I feel like I I have total peace. I have everything figured out, and they're always very short. But
Yeah.
I really like that feeling. I think Wiley has a question.
So one of the new additions that I've noticed in recently, not having played it last year and then played it again recently, is some of the cryptic messages in between the levels. Can you guys offer any kind of insight to that without, I guess, spoiling it if there's something to spoil? I haven't been able to wrap my head around it yet.
Yeah. I don't know if we can without spoiling it. It's just like, no, well, I guess I can talk about like developing it. We came up, Adam and I kind of came up with this idea, is like Steve Frisch email about, oh man, this would be fucking awesome, let's do that. And so we put in these sort of transmissions every so often, and they get more and more cryptic, and as you solve them, you'll reveal more about sort of like this extra narrative layer. Because I mean, this is like a stage-based level game, like that's very arcadey and finite. You know, each level is 100, and there's 100 levels. So like, how do you create story while still being honest about it? Without just saying, hey, I'm a paperclip, and this is like, you know, it's the story. So that's what we kind of came up with, and so that's, yeah. You'll see, hopefully, if you're a crazy code breaker.
Yeah, they were definitely, they're on purpose. They do like serve a purpose, and they were very designed. Like there's a whole set of documents that we had to put together to figure out, to essentially level design the codes to work sort of like you know, the same way we would level design the rest of the game.
Yeah.
One thing that I saw on the website that you guys put up is how it's designed to create like an aesthetic flow that I think is, like Adam, you were talking about the difficulty of seeing a screenshot. So part of that website is clearly meant to like create a sense of the Zen-like flow of the game. Does that, I'm sort of wondering what the response to that has been like. Has that contextualized what you're going to do to like market and talk about the game going forward? And that actually includes the whole cryptic mystery thing, because there's something to that too. I'm just wondering how you feel about the elements so far in terms of like what's working.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel, Adam?
Well,
And this is like, we're really talking about that right now in our email, so.
yeah,
really
this is the ongoing problem, and this was because this is the Cliff Notes version of the talk. There was no, there's actually like 20 slides that talk about just like figuring out what to do, how to talk to people about the game, and the website is the ultimate result of that. And Fish Pop was sort of like the one of like 2 or 3 things that we were debating about. Okay, we have this game, everybody likes it, they think it's fun, but like it is still kind of just circles and screenshots, and what do we do? And we talked about doing freemium stuff, and we talked about doing a super cool website, but like the important thing to remember, if your marketing plan is super cool website, you have to actually build the super cool website. And that was, I mean, Greg built the whole website. He can say better than me whether or not that was difficult, but we had to actually focus down, we had to figure out what the goal of the website was, how we wanted to communicate about the game to people. Like, I know we really didn't want to call it a casual game, because we don't think of it as a casual game at all. We think of it as a kind of a hardcore cerebral puzzle game, but if you tell, like, my mom, oh, you gotta check out this abstract cerebral hardcore puzzler, she's gonna get all, like, you know, well, if you say so, but only because you're my handsome son, you know, and so that's no good. And so, like, we...
So
like,
handsome.
I can't help it. But that was the main problem. It was like, okay, we have a game and we've seen lots of people really enjoy it. It doesn't, screenshots aren't the best. Even though the screenshots are beautiful, they don't necessarily communicate what you do when you interact with it. And we can't call it casual, we can't call it hardcore, and what do we do? and the website, I think, was our answer to that. But
yeah, that's something that we kind of up with the idea of how to pitch it. I mean, I was on this big road trip across the U.S. and I was, I don't know how much you told him, but you told him about fish pop, which is hilarious.
There might have been quoted fish pop emails in the presentation.
Nice. But like that and all this, like just trying to scramble and pushing it at each order to figure out how to actually tell people like how to play this and that they can play it. Like my grandma had played through it, without any of my assistance, like for 14, 15 levels, which is like crazy to me. She's like 86. So I like trying to get those people, I mean, like Adam's saying, we came up with just like this idea of Zen and using that as just like the one word that we focused on and I think pushing that more.
Ironically, we never actually used the word Zen in anything, but that was totally the thing internally that we were using to organize our thoughts about this.
Right. And as far as like response, I'm not even, I mean, I think like designer friends and like graphic designer kind of people are like, oh wow, sweet, great website, and like it's really clean and nice. But yeah, I have no idea if it's gonna be reaching in, like spreading his fingers into like the elderly or like sort of casual market.
That's gonna be.
That was really gross.
That's gonna be on our iTunes page. That's gonna be its bullet point. Spreads its fingers into the elderly. That orreries. So yeah, I don't know. I think that we're still doing a lot actually before release of like trailers and trying to frame it. Like the ciphery stuff is hopefully gonna like touch the people like us that are really into games, and then maybe just like the simplicity and just like, hey, you could play this too, and this is the simple rules might hopefully be attractive to the other end of the spectrum. So that's the thinking, I think. I guess the only thing I would add is that I don't think our goal with this game is to make everybody play it, but our goal this whole time has been to make, for people who are into this, who look at it and see it moving around and touch it and like it, to make sure there's no like obstacles between them and the game. So people who aren't into it, we don't care about, like they're not going to play the game anyway, but people who are into it, it would suck to like scare them off.
Yeah, totally.
Anything else? Should we play? How much time do we have? I think like 5 minutes.
15 minutes or so.
About 15 minutes. Should we kill it and let you guys play the game a little bit more before they kick us out?
Yeah.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it. Sorry we were so late.
Oh, geez, no problem at all.